Okay. So this is going to be a pretty interactive one. So logistic wise, I'm going to throw up a statement about college applications on the screen that will be either fact or fiction. And then we're going to use different reactions for y'all to vote on what you think is which. And then we will go over the correct answer, whether the myth be true or whether the myth be debunked. And then just general session rules, be kind to each other. A lot of these have gotten even splits between people thinking they're fact and fiction. And there is totally reason for someone to think either of these coming up. And then I wrote this part when I thought we were going to have access to the chat, but we will have time at the end to go over any questions and for y'all to present your myths that you want debunked or proven true. So reaction wise, what we are going to do for this round is if you think it is a fact, we'll get into the thumbs up reaction in that bottom panel. And then if you think it is fiction, we're going to do the heart reaction also in that bottom panel. So first up, one of the most controversial these days is GPA and test scores are the only thing that colleges and universities are looking for. If you think this is a fact, let me get the thumbs up. If you think this is fiction, let me get a heart. I'm seeing a lot of hearts. This is in fact fiction. When reviewing applications, we are looking at all aspects of the application, including that essay, school and community involvement, and a lot more. When we review applications, we want to look at the student as a whole and not just what a test number might say about them. This means that if any student were to speak with an admissions counselor for a long time, the conversations we had and the things that we learned through those interactions is also used when we review that application. So even more of an excuse to go talk to your counselors by email or phone or at your college fairs, but there is definitely opportunity to make sure you make a great impression. Okay, applying regular decision is always the best way to raise your chances of being admitted. And I got a few hearts. Some of y'all might have caught on by now that it is called application myths. It is fiction, but fiction in a gray area, tricky with wording. It is only fiction because I said always, because every single university is completely different and we all use different application deadlines and we review applications in different ways. For example, at Appalachian, early action is actually the best time to apply because we fill most of our class from that early action deadline. There are also the bonuses of it opens up the scholarship application, which is due in November. But when it comes just to admissions, for us, that is better. But other institutions have a very small pool that they will admit for their early deadlines, and they fill most from the regular. So always touch base with your admissions counselors and each institution's admissions office to see what they recommend and when they recommend you apply. Okay, this is the one I've gotten the most split. You need to have leadership roles in your extracurricular activities for them to matter. I'm getting that really big split again. So this is actually fiction. Of course, having leadership roles says something about you and shows that you can handle a lot of things. But when we're looking at the activities list, we are looking more for commitment to specific extracurricular activities, as well as different interests. So for example, say a student has been involved in a dance studio for all 4 years of high school, but maybe on their application, they put that they want to major in psychology and didn't mention dance. Because they put that on their activities list, we then know that this student probably really wants to get involved in dance. So we can kind of point them towards those resources for our clubs, as well as just get to know a little more about that student on the personal level. And then while we are on the activities list, We don't just want to see all those clubs and organizations on campus. We want to see any responsibility you have outside the classroom. So say a student is responsible for watching their younger siblings multiple times a week, or has to help with dinner or grocery shopping or anything around the house, or even is just involved in a youth group. We want to see everything to get a full, well-rounded look at that student, as well as understand even more kind of who they are and what is important to them and what made them them. And the earlier you start college planning, the better. This was my one trick question. Of course, it's a fact. Not only does planning for the application process early make sure that your application will be the absolute best that it can be, but it helps keep that stress down, especially with those early action deadlines being in the middle of fall semester senior year. Making sure everything is planned out as early as possible makes that semester a whole lot smoother instead of stressing out the last minute, making sure you get that last recommendation or you hit submit on that last application. Now, like I said, this is super informal. It's time to debunk or prove your myths. So if you all want, you can raise your hand, you can just unmute yourself and throw something out that you have heard or ask any questions. And this is a totally open space for any of these. Go for it, Eddie. Oh, you unmuted.
Sorry.
You're good.
Hi, my name is Rick Prill. My kid is Edie Prill.
Edie,
That's why you're seeing Edie on there. Yeah. How important is it, and I'm thinking about App State in particular, if you're interested in a sport, how important is it to get in touch with the coach or whatever as a part of the admissions process?
So that is actually recruitment for D1, at least NCAA, is separate from the admissions process itself. The coach does have to bring their stuff to us to make sure they would get in on their own accord before they're allowed to recruit. But I would definitely recommend the sooner the better, touching base with that head coach to see if there's available spots. At least for app on all of our varsity sport websites, there is in the drop-down menu an interest form for prospective students to fill out, and then the coach can go ahead and look over those stats. But emails, phone calls, everything work as well. I know that timeline's a lot different than the admissions timeline.
Okay, that's very helpful. And particularly for the snowboarding team, any advice there?
So our snowboarding team is not actually one of our varsity sports. So that actually does not affect anything. That is one of our intramural or our club sports. So that actually has nothing to do with the admissions process. That's just a club and organization that they can always touch base with when they get to campus in the fall.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course.
What's the major differentiator between one state school and another in North Carolina?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So we all have the same governing body. I think the best way to kind of describe it would be the higher education level of like different school districts for public schools. We have the same governing body at the end of the day, but we definitely operate all a little differently. I want to say it's either 18 or 22 UNC system public schools in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
We all have completely different personalities on our campus as well as with our students, and we do focus towards more specific things. So app, we're kind of known as the School of Sustainability. We're called the hippies a lot. We're growing out of that a little bit, but that is something we hold important. And what we really want to see with our students and what we want to help our students become are responsible and active global citizens in whatever aspect they're really looking for.
Okay.
Definitely different school to school.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Of course. Go for it, Connor.
Do you have, quota is not the right word, but do you try to limit the number of people that you get from one particular area?
We do not. We do not directly consider location at all in the application process, even for like out of state versus in-state students. Other schools, well, we all for the UNC system do have that out of state quota of what we're allowed to admit from out of state, but we are nowhere close to it. So we don't look at location at all. It just really helps to link you with a specific admissions counselor. And so there's this like contact person to go to.
Is it, would it be, I'm not quite sure how to ask this question. Is there one, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, is there one state school that's better than another state school in North Carolina for your child to have a better opportunity at employment when they're done, right out of school?
I would say it is completely dependent on the program. When it comes to just the school itself, all of our public schools and private schools are equally strong.
Okay.
But each of us has a really special area that we might specialize in. So for example, like when we think engineering, we always think NC State.
Right.
Or med, it's always UNC or Duke. So that's where it looks at a lot, but definitely look into those specific programs at each institution and see what their job placement is, if they do any type of internships with those big companies, and any kind of resources that the school and the program itself does provide to help with job placement after graduation.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Of course. So if any other myths need to be debunked or proven true come to mind, you can reach out to your admissions counselor at any of the schools anyone is applying to, as well as us specifically. So for Myers Park, App State specific admissions counselor is David Stevenson Jr. He could not be here tonight, but he is more than happy to answer any phone calls, emails, or even set up a Zoom one-to-one session with him on our website as well. And then I am Brittany Benson. I do not have a specific territory. I help a little bit with everything, so I can also field any of those questions that you may have.